The sound of tearing flesh echoed through the empty classroom. Madison Brooks screamed as she tried to pull herself free from the chair, her skin ripping where industrial-grade epoxy had bonded her body to the seat. Blood seeped through her white dress, spreading like spilled wine across the fabric. Her hands trembled as she gripped the armrests, knuckles white with strain. Dylan Foster zoomed his phone camera closer, capturing every detail of her agony. 50,000 viewers watching live, Miss Brooks. Say hi to your fans. The classroom erupted with cruel laughter from his crew. Madison's voice cracked with pain. Please, the skin is tearing. But Dylan only adjusted the angle for a better shot. His handsome face twisted with sadistic pleasure. The afternoon sun cast long shadows through the windows, marking it as 4:30 p.m., long after other students had gone home. No help would come. Madison's eyes darted to the locked door, then back to her tormentor. Through her tears, she began counting quietly. 15, 14, 13. Dylan laughed harder. Counting won't help you, teacher. Nobody's coming. Yet beneath her pain, something strange flickered in Madison's eyes. 3, 2, 1. Phoenix rising. Before we continue this shocking story, if you've ever faced bullying or know someone who has, please hit that subscribe button. Your support helps us share these important stories that need to be heard. And remember, in the comments below, you're never alone. Share your own experiences. This community stands together against injustice. Now, let's see what Madison meant by those cryptic words. The power dynamic in that classroom couldn't have been clearer. Madison Brooks, 24 years old, wore a second-hand dress and carried a fabric tote bag instead of leather. Her shoes had been resoled twice. Everything about her screamed, "Scholarship kid made good." Now teaching at a school where students drove cars worth more than her annual salary. Dylan Foster, on the other hand, gleamed with privilege. The Rolex on his wrist cost more than Madison's entire wardrobe. His designer clothes, bought with daddy's money, marked him as untouchable royalty in Westfield Preparatory Academy's twisted hierarchy. "My father owns this school," Dylan sneered, circling Madison's trapped form like a predator. "My mother controls the board. Every teacher here works for my family. What do you have? Nothing. You're nobody." The other students, all from wealthy families, nodded along. They'd seen this show before. 3 teachers in 2 years had left Westfield Prep after encounters with Dylan Foster. Mrs. Henderson had her car accident. Mr. Campbell supposedly overdosed. Ms. Martinez's suicide note was found, though her family insisted she'd never been depressed. The pattern was clear to anyone willing to see it. Madison's first day 3 weeks ago had come with warnings. Principal Robert Foster, Dylan's father, had pulled her aside with a practiced smile. "My son can be challenging, but I'm sure a smart girl like you will find the right approach. The previous teachers just weren't a good fit for our academic environment." The subtext was clear: play along or face consequences. Madison had nodded, smiled, and filed every word away in her memory. She'd spent the following weeks being the perfect victim: quiet, accommodating, never fighting back, as Dylan's pranks escalated from verbal harassment to destroyed lesson plans to threats spray-painted on her car. Now, trapped and bleeding, Madison fumbled for her phone with fingers slick with blood. Dylan laughed again. "Calling 911? They won't come fast enough. By the time they arrive, this live stream will hit 100,000 views. You'll be famous. The teacher who couldn't handle a little prank." But Madison wasn't calling emergency services. Her fingers, despite their trembling, moved with practiced precision across the screen. She entered a 10-digit number she'd memorized long ago. The phone rang once before connecting. Madison spoke 3 words that would change everything. Phoenix is burning. Then, after a pause, time to hunt the eagle. The effect was immediate. Every phone in the room, Dylan's, his crew's, even the ones tucked away in backpacks, suddenly screamed with emergency alerts. The school's lockdown system activated, steel shutters slamming down over windows. Red emergency lights bathed the classroom in an ominous glow. Dylan's live stream cut off mid-sentence as cell towers went dark. "What did you do?" His voice cracked, real fear replacing arrogance for the first time. Madison, still glued to the chair, still bleeding, smiled through her pain. "Did you really think I was just another helpless teacher, Dylan? Did none of you wonder why someone with my credentials would take a job at a school like this?" Madison shifted slightly, wincing as the movement pulled at her trapped skin. What the students couldn't see, what the cameras hadn't caught, was the small device she'd palmed from her bag during the attack. Not a normal phone, but something far more sophisticated. The device looked like a typical smartphone, but was actually military-grade satellite communication technology, equipped with quantum encryption that made it impossible to hack or trace. This was the kind of equipment CIA operatives used in deep-cover missions, capable of mobilizing entire SWAT teams with a single call. One transmission from this device had just turned Westfield Prep into a federal crime scene. Principal Foster burst through the classroom door, his face purple with rage. "Dylan, what have you done?" He stopped mid-sentence, his eyes locking onto Madison's. The color drained from his face like water from a broken dam. "No, you're supposed to be dead. We burned the whole family." Madison's smile widened despite her pain. "You missed one, Robert. You killed Michael Brooks 3 years ago, but you missed his daughter. Did you really think the CIA would let the murder of one of their own go unpunished?" Dylan staggered backward, his phone clattering to the floor. "Dad, what is she talking about? What murder?" But Robert Foster wasn't listening to his son. His eyes darted to the windows, where the sound of approaching helicopters grew louder. Not news choppers. The rhythmic thump was distinctly military. Black Hawks. Michael Brooks was investigating our operations. He got too close to the truth about what really happens to the students who transfer from Westfield. We had no choice. Madison's voice remained steady, despite the blood loss, making her dizzy. "Those students didn't transfer, Dylan. They were sold. Your family runs a human trafficking ring, using this prestigious school as a hunting ground for vulnerable teenagers. International students who wouldn't be missed immediately. Scholarship kids whose families couldn't afford to investigate. 3 years of investigation, and my father found evidence of over 200 victims." The pieces fell into place in Dylan's mind like a horrible puzzle. The exchange students who suddenly left mid-semester. The scholarship recipients who vanished without explanation. His parents' frequent trips to Eastern Europe and Southeast Asia, always returning with large donations for the school. "No," he whispered. "We're educators. We help students." Madison laughed bitterly. "You helped them disappear. Your basement renovation last year, that wasn't for a new computer lab. Should we tell your live stream audience what's really down there? Oh wait, your 50,000 viewers just became 50,000 witnesses." Through the chaos, Madison pulled up her laptop, which had been recording everything from her desk. The screen showed various windows of code and data streams. This wasn't just any computer. It was equipped with cutting-edge AI crime analysis software, the kind that could scan 50 terabytes of data in 30 seconds, identifying money laundering patterns, trafficking routes, and creating automated reports for federal prosecutors. The same technology that had helped crack over 3,000 cases in the past year alone. Madison's fingers flew across the keyboard even as her body remained trapped. 3 years of preparation. Every conversation recorded, every transaction tracked. Your father's been sloppy, Dylan. Arrogant. He thought his connections made him untouchable. The helicopters were directly overhead now, their downdraft rattling the locked windows. Robert Foster pulled out his phone, frantically dialing. Victoria, code black, destroy everything. But his wife's phone went straight to voicemail. In the distance, sirens wailed, not regular police, but the distinctive sound of federal vehicles. Madison's trap hadn't just caught the Fosters, it had netted their entire operation. You want to know the truth about your precious son, Robert? Madison's voice grew stronger despite her injuries. He didn't just inherit your business. He inherited your methods. 3 teachers in 2 years? They weren't accidents or suicides. Your son killed them because they discovered what this school really is. Mrs. Henderson found the hidden cameras in the girls' locker room. Mr. Campbell stumbled onto the drug operation you run through the chemistry lab. Miss Martinez? She tried to report a missing student. Dylan's face went white. I just wanted them gone. Dad said he'd handle it. He said they were problems that needed solving. Madison nodded grimly. And how did Daddy solve those problems, Dylan? The same way he solved Michael Brooks. The same way he planned to solve me once I'd served my purpose as bait. The weight of realization crashed down on Dylan Foster like a collapsing building. He'd been groomed not just as a bully, but as a killer. Every cruel act, every escalation, had been training for the family business. Suddenly, the classroom door exploded inward. Not regular SWAT, but FBI hostage rescue team operatives in full tactical gear. Their movements were precise, weapons trained on every corner. The team leader approached Madison carefully. Agent Brooks, what's your status? Madison's professional mask finally cracked, tears of relief mixing with those of pain. Flesh wounds only. Did you secure the tunnels? The team leader nodded. Affirmative. 3 girls found alive in the basement. The evidence response team is processing the scene now. Robert Foster made one last desperate play, pulling a pistol from his jacket and aiming it at his own son. If I'm going down, I'm not going alone. The HRT operatives tensed, but Madison's voice cut through the tension like a blade. Simon says freeze. Every agent stopped moving. It was a code phrase, one that indicated a delicate psychological situation. Madison met Robert's wild eyes. Your son live-streamed everything, Robert. 50,000 witnesses saw him torture me. They saw you confess to murder. You shoot him now. You burn alone. You surrender. Maybe he gets juvenile detention instead of life without parole. The gun trembled in Robert Foster's hand as sweat dripped down his face. His son stood frozen, finally understanding the monster his father had always been. Madison's breathing was labored, each word a struggle against the pain. Tick-tock, Robert. Every second you hesitate, more evidence uploads to federal servers. Your offshore accounts in the Caymans, the shipping manifests to Eastern Europe. The video recordings you thought were destroyed. Robert's eyes darted between his son and the HRT operatives. His empire, built on the suffering of children, was crumbling. With a defeated slump of his shoulders, he lowered the weapon. It clattered across the floor as agents swarmed him. Robert Foster, you're under arrest for murder, human trafficking, money laundering. The list of charges continued as they dragged him away. Dylan collapsed to his knees, sobbing. The golden boy who'd tormented Madison was nothing but a broken puppet whose strings had finally been cut. Paramedics rushed to Madison, carefully assessing her injuries. The epoxy had bonded her skin to the chair in multiple places. "We need to transport her with the chair," one said. Attempting removal here could cause severe tissue damage. As they prepared her for transport, FBI agents flooded the school. Director Alexandra Chase entered the classroom, her presence commanding despite her slight frame. She knelt beside Madison's stretcher. "Your father would be proud. Operation Schoolyard is finally complete." Madison managed a weak smile through the pain medication beginning to take effect. "Did you get Victoria Foster?" Alexandra nodded. "Caught her trying to acid wash hard drives in her home office. She's looking at life without parole." The basement excavation had already begun, guided by Madison's 3 years of painstaking investigation. What they found exceeded even their worst expectations. The underground facility stretched beyond the school's official blueprint. Behind false walls, investigators discovered holding cells where students had been kept before transport. Personal belongings scattered across concrete floors told stories of interrupted lives. 12 teenagers, all international students or scholarship recipients, were found alive, but traumatized. They'd been reported as runaways or transfers, their disappearances carefully orchestrated to avoid suspicion. In the administrative offices, federal agents uncovered decades of meticulous records. The Fosters hadn't just documented their crimes, they'd treated it like a legitimate business. Ledgers showed payments from buyers across 6 continents. Psychological profiles detailed which students would be easiest to take. Most chilling were the photos. Hundreds of young faces marked with prices like cattle at auction. Some were stamped "delivered." Others, mercifully, were marked "pending." Thanks to Madison's operation, those pending sales would never be completed. The true scope of the network stunned even seasoned investigators. Westfield Prep was just one node in a vast web. The Fosters had connections to similar operations in 12 states. Elite private schools had become hunting grounds, their prestigious reputations providing perfect cover. Parents paid enormous tuitions believing they were securing their children's futures, never suspecting they were funding their potential disappearance. Madison underwent surgery at a specialized burn unit, requiring multiple skin grafts where the epoxy had torn away flesh. The scars would be permanent, a physical reminder of her sacrifice. During her recovery, she gave detailed depositions from her hospital bed. "My father, Michael Brooks, was a CIA analyst who noticed patterns in missing persons reports among international students. The investigation led him to Westfield. He enrolled me in a local public school and took a teaching position to get inside." She pulled out a worn photo of her father in his military dress uniform, Purple Heart and Silver Star visible on his chest. He discovered the tunnels during a renovation project. Before he could report it, they killed him. Made it look like a mugging gone wrong. But Dad was paranoid after 20 years in intelligence. He taught me protocols, code words, how to build evidence chains that would hold up in court. He always said the bad guys might kill you, but they couldn't kill the truth if you documented it properly. Alexandra Chase sat beside Madison's bed, reviewing case files. "Your father sent me everything before he died. We wanted to move immediately, but our lawyers said we needed more evidence. A grieving daughter, volunteering to go undercover. The Attorney General thought we were insane." Madison winced as she adjusted her position. "I spent 3 years training. FBI Academy couldn't officially enroll me, but I audited every relevant course. Surveillance, evidence handling, undercover operations. Then I crafted Madison Brooks, young, idealistic, vulnerable. Everything the Fosters looked for in a victim." The investigation revealed that Dylan's live-streamed torture session had saved additional lives. The 50,000 viewers included several parents whose children attended Westfield. When the stream cut off and news of the FBI raid broke, 3 families immediately reported their children missing under suspicious circumstances. The children were found in a warehouse 40 miles away, being prepared for shipment. Dylan's need for an audience had inadvertently created an army of witnesses. Dylan himself faced a complex legal situation. At 17, prosecutors debated whether to try him as an adult. His lawyers argued he was a victim too, groomed by sociopathic parents to continue their legacy. The videos of him tormenting teachers painted a different picture. In the end, he accepted a plea deal. 25 years with possibility of parole, contingent on testifying against his parents' network. During his allocution, he broke down completely. "I thought hurting people made me powerful. I thought fear meant respect. I was just another tool in my parents' business. Stupid to see it." The ripple effects spread quickly through America's elite educational institutions. Parents demanded transparency. Background checks became mandatory for all staff. Several other schools preemptively closed when their own suspicious patterns came to light. The Department of Education launched a nationwide audit of private school operations. Madison Brooks, the weak teacher who'd been glued to a chair, had triggered the largest education scandal in American history. 3 months later, Madison walked with a slight limp into FBI headquarters. The physical therapy helped, but some damage was permanent. Alexandra greeted her in a conference room where analysts pored over intelligence reports. "The Foster Network gave us everything to save themselves from death row. We've identified similar operations in Boston, Chicago, Los Angeles. The infrastructure is staggering." Madison studied the reports, her trained eye catching patterns others might miss. They're all connected to elite prep schools, same profile, international students, scholarship kids, anyone without strong family networks. Alexandra slid a folder across the table. "Which brings us to your next assignment, if you're willing." Inside were documents for a new identity. Sarah Mitchell, reference librarian with impeccable credentials. The target was Pemberton Academy in Seattle, another prestigious school with troubling disappearance statistics. Madison traced her fingers over the fake identification, feeling the familiar weight of purpose settling on her shoulders. "The Foster operation taught them to be more careful," Alexandra continued. "No more obvious tunnels or holding cells. They're using technology now. Cryptocurrency, dark web auctions, international shipping companies with legitimate fronts. We need someone who can navigate both the academic world and the digital underground." Madison closed the folder, decision made. "When do I start?" 6 weeks of preparation followed. New appearance, new background, new trauma to hide her real skills. The librarian cover was perfect. Access to all student records, invisible to most teenagers. Positioned to notice patterns others would miss. Madison spent hours perfecting her new persona's mannerisms, burying the confident agent beneath layers of manufactured social anxiety. The night before leaving for Seattle, Madison visited her father's grave. The headstone read simply, "Michael Brooks, beloved father, faithful servant." She placed fresh flowers against the marble, whispering updates on the case he'd died investigating. "We got them, Dad. The Fosters, their network, hundreds of kids saved. But it's not over. It's bigger than we thought. I know you'd tell me to be careful, that I've done enough, but someone has to stop them. Someone has to stand between the predators and the prey." Her secure phone buzzed with an encrypted message. Another school, this time in Miami, had reported 3 students missing under suspicious circumstances. The patterns were accelerating. The removal of the foster network had created a power vacuum that others were rushing to fill. Madison realized with grim certainty that her war against educational predators was far from over. Each victory revealed 10 more battles waiting to be fought. On her final morning in Connecticut, Madison stood outside the shuttered remains of Westfield Prep. The building would be demolished, the ground salted with too much suffering to ever build upon again. Construction workers had already begun the careful process of filling the underground tunnels. She touched the scars on her arms where the skin grafts had healed, permanent reminders of the price of justice. A text arrived from an unknown number. Madison tensed, recognizing the format as a secure FBI communication. She opened the attached image, another prestigious private school, this one in Portland. The architecture was different, but the energy was the same, privilege masking predation. At the bottom of the image, a single line of text made her blood run cold. They found another network. Bigger. Madison studied the photo more carefully, noting the Gothic architecture, the manicured grounds, the students walking between classes with the same entitled swagger she'd seen at Westfield. But something else caught her eye. A construction notice for basement renovations posted near the main entrance. The same euphemism the Fosters had used. Her hands clenched involuntarily. She pulled out her new identification documents. Sarah Mitchell stared back at her, a woman who'd never been glued to a chair, never lost her father, never spent 3 years planning revenge disguised as justice. A woman who could walk into another elite school and play the victim until the moment came to reveal the predator beneath. Madison Brooks was officially dead, her mission complete. But Sarah Mitchell's mission was just beginning. Her phone buzzed again. Alexandra's voice was urgent. "We've intercepted communications. They know we're coming. They're accelerating their timeline." Madison's scarred fingers flew across the phone screen, pulling up flight schedules, analyzing the new school's layout, already planning infiltration strategies. The hunt had revealed a hydra. Cut off one head, 2 more appeared. But Madison had been forged in pain and loss into something harder than her enemies could imagine. They thought she was just one woman. They were wrong. She was Legion. Every saved child, every grieving parent, every silenced victim given voice through her actions. A final message appeared on her phone, this time from an unknown sender who'd somehow penetrated FBI encryption. "We know who you are. What you did. Come if you dare." Madison smiled, the same cold smile she'd worn while bleeding in that chair, counting down to justice. They wanted her to be afraid. They wanted her to stop. They had no idea what they'd just invited into their house of cards. Slipping her new identification into her pocket, Madison Brooks became Sarah Mitchell, walking toward her car with the measured steps of prey that had evolved into the apex predator. The war for America's children was far from over, but in classrooms built on suffering, behind prestigious facades that hid trafficking operations, a new kind of teacher was about to begin her lessons, and this time she knew exactly what kind of homework to assign. "Class is in session," she whispered, starting the engine. "Let's see who's ready to learn."